I'm not a mindful lover. But you have to kind of get close. Am I right, Pastor? You have to get like your mouth. You don't really eat it, but you have to.
Yeah, but you'll want to move it closer because I got the screen recording about closer if you want to be in the frame.
I'll move the mic closer. You really don't need this. Nah. Like here?
Sure, you're in. Yeah, you can be off the side a little bit. Yep, you're good.
All right, and this is on.
If you turn the.
I did,
Yep.
but it doesn't mean it's on.
Then try it. Should be working.
Good. All right, I set up to 35. If we have 35, that'll be a good day. Last week, who was here last week? You were here last week. Is it Nancy? Nancy. Good to see you back. Thank you. We had a lot last week because there were two groups this time. So there's miracles happening. Not that miracles can't happen on paper in here, they will. But they're talking miracles in the text. Every single project in my miracle. Don't you feel that way? I agree 100%. When it comes to creativity, it has to be divinely inspired.
I just it's called all-nighters.
It is what gets it done, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Good. So tell me, what projects are you doing, senior projects? So do you have like in music you have a recital. So you have to
have a show.
A gallery. Do you have a date for that? Place for that?
We are officially done March. And then we graduate.
So you have to have it done by...
Actually, we have it done by the end of March.
And then will it be showing somewhere?
Yes, it'll be showing at the school. Unfortunately, we don't have gallery spaces here. So it is at the same time.
Well, take it.
I'm going.
Good. Biggest
I'll take it.
Fan. I'm not
Just so you
prepared.
know. Yeah, we'll get it out of here.
But on the entire wall of this space, which is like 7 foot. And on top of my teacher goes, this is yeah, you can totally do this.
So you have to write on it or do it somewhere?
Anyway, I just noticed.
So we have it's called the Separate Review, where we go into a panel of teachers and they review our progress of the class. We show them sketches, we show them thumbnails, we show them everything that we have so far, and then they evaluate our progress and how they see our outcome of this class. We're going to fail or we're not fail, or if we need to restart our project again. Which is pretty cool. So that's going to happen.
I'm looking around for more artists. Marilyn's an artist. She is so impressive. She makes amazing books and clothing, and so that's a different kind of art. It's a textile art. People study that.
We do have textiles. We have like looms.
I love that. Have you ever done that?
No, instead I took both.
How about the pottery stuff? The pottery stuff.
Closest I got to 3D was welding, where I put the gear on, the gloves,
Yeah,
thing.
did you like it? That's working with fire.
I had my teacher stand right next to me. I kept looking at him. I was like, you gotta help me do it. I can't do this. Can't do this alone. Then he left me alone. He was like, I want to hear frying bacon when I come back because that's what
Frying bacon. I bet it doesn't smell like that. Does it smell?
I have like the thing on, so I can't really smell it, and I can't even see where I'm welding because it's so dark. You can only see like a little light to guide you.
Did you watch that? That's called Blown Away, where they do these art projects with glass. On Netflix?
No, I have not seen that on Netflix.
That is so cool. I just watched it this week. All these artists that take glass, which is a hot, dangerous thing. What they can create. On your break, and Chris's break, that's cool.
I'll just watch it my own.
Yeah, it's so fun because those artists take something like a hairbrush and do it.
Oh, yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start in just a couple minutes. I don't want to start too early, but I'm glad you're here. I have 3 other tables if you want to spread out more. On each table there is going to be some creation happening, but we want to talk a little bit first before we get busy creating. I think even though worship is out, right? You guys sat behind me, so it's out. So I'm going to keep moving. What I'm going to do is get us started and make sure that we get a chance to cover as much information as we can. And you have as much time humanly possible to be creative. How many of you have had your hands in paint recently? Barry's been painting.
Painted the garage door.
Painted the garage doors. Barry's a creative. Good to hear. I just got my hands in paint. I touched Kayla's art just moments ago, so I could say. And then I did some painting for some next week in preschool. The preschool kids are going to take those plastic ornaments, and then we're going to pour paint in them and roll them around, and they're going to do like a present for their parents, especially gifts for their parents. So that's what I've been painting and working with this preschool art, which is Play-Doh today up there. You don't get to play with Play-Doh. Actually, it's quite therapeutic if you haven't had a chance to do it lately. It is fun. Do you do much with, you said you don't do any 3D.
We get free stuff, so Play-Doh is a bonus.
Yeah, Play-Doh is always a bonus. Well, I'm Barbara Demner. I'm going to use the mic, and I think somebody turns that on, but it's not me. It's very possible that the man in the road thinks it's on. Isn't this supposed to be a red light that's on?
It's flashing.
Ah, so it is on. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, we're glad you're here. We're excited about VanGogh, excited about Henri Nouwen, and we're going to put that together in this amazing presentation today. I wanted to start with a prayer from, this book is called With Open Hands by Henri Nouwen. It's an amazing book of his that can be used for devotion. It's in the library upstairs at your disposal to check out at any time. There'll be a shelf, a Henri Nouwen shelf dedicated right on the cart, so you can watch for them in the next few months. But let's bow our head in prayer as we start. Dear God, as you dawn me ever deeper into your heart, I discover that my companions on this journey are women and men, like the women and men here today, loved by you as fully and as intimately as I am loved. And in your compassionate heart, there is a place for all of them. No one is excluded. All of us are yours. Give us a share in your compassion, dear God, so that your unlimited love may become visible in the way that I love my brothers and my sisters. Amen. These are the scriptures that inspired our presentation today. We want to make sure that because we are here to dive deeper into knowing God and knowing Christ, that we get a chance to refer to scripture. So I want to see if can you read them at all from the back? Mm-hmm. I didn't get the biggest print because I wanted to get them both on one slide. Again, our focus is on a compassionate life, and our first one is from 1 John 4. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God. And then from Colossians chapter 3, verse 12. Put on then as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other, as we have been forgiven. All right, let's go back one and make an introduction. Come on over. I'm so excited, so glad she's here. Tell us who you are and what you do and where you're going.
Hello, my name is Kaylee Dents. I'm Joanne and Randy's daughter.
Back there.
So I am currently a senior at the University of Michigan Penny State School of Art and Design, getting my bachelor's in fine arts degree. So I'll be graduating in April, around April. So my art focuses a lot on painting, a lot of oil painting, and currently I am in my senior project right now, which focuses a lot on animals and the concept of de-extinction, which is bringing back animals from the dead. So that's what I am currently working on and focusing on my senior year here at college. And hopefully in the future, I'll be able to find a way to work with creating a voice for animals that don't get that voice, and to opening a gallery space for that. So.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
what you just said, bringing back animals from the dead, how does that relate to art? I mean, how do you connect that to your art?
I create that through my paintings and how I feel about the process of using science rather than everyone coming together and working on conservation to work with the animals we already have, rather than focusing on the animals that have passed.
So are you a vegan?
No.
No.
No, I am not, but I still love my animals.
Yeah. Yeah. Particular animal that you love?
Otters. I do love otters. That's my spirit animals. I love otters.
So in your years at the University of Michigan, you must have studied all the different artists. When did you study Van Gogh?
We did talk about Van Gogh around freshman year in one of my art history classes, where we went all the way back to even Plato when he talked about artwork. And we did have a little focus on Van Gogh for sure.
Who is your favorite artist?
Leonardo da Vinci.
Ah, Da Vinci. Yes.
And I got to see some of his works in Italy when I studied abroad, which is great.
When did you study abroad last spring?
This spring, like this past spring. Yeah, in Florence, Italy. So it was really pretty.
Did you see any Van Gogh art there? Was there anything
No, I saw a lot of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci.
there? There's a big museum in Amsterdam. Van Gogh.
Still have yet to go.
Put on your bucket list. Yes, Dad, make that happen. All right, we're gonna let her, because she's the art expert, we're gonna let you talk about Van Gogh the most,
Okay.
and then I'll go into Henri. So why don't you start off with the basics?
So this is Vincent van Gogh, one of his most famous portraits of himself before he unfortunately died. So Vincent van Gogh was born in the Netherlands in 1853. Here, his dad was a minister, and Van Gogh was the eldest of 6 children. So there was a lot of kids in his family. His brother Theo is where all of his letters came from, and Theo was the youngest of the 6, and where he supported Van Gogh both emotionally and financially out of his whole family. So throughout his short life, Van Gogh struggled a lot with mental illnesses, which brought him into several asylums and hospital visits. He was admitted multiple times into the hospital and into several asylums too for mental illness. His life was not very successful as an artist. He only sold 1 painting his entire life. Then when he died is when people started appreciating his art a lot more, as we have museums dedicated to him today. And he is considered one of the greatest artists of all time with his unique technique that he used in oil painting.
What is this painting at the bottom there? Do you know what that one is?
That's part of his series when he was in the peasant life. So he drew a lot of peasants and poor people to try to be one with being kind.
Solidarity.
Yeah, solidarity. So that's part of his, when he lived in the poor, with the poor for a very long time.
Thank you.
So his early works are not what they look like his most famous works now, which is Starry Night. They were more realistic and they focused a lot on the poor. So he had a lot of dark, influential paintings with little flashes of hope in there. Like the light in this very poor family sitting at a table eating, which is called the Potato Eaters. So that's a lot of his early work, is paintings that are dark, that focus on bringing hope in the most dark places.
Was this painted before it was?
Yeah, this is before his very famous Starry Night and his unique style.
Before his
Mental
beer gut
issues. A lot before that. This is where his parents also started to shun him a little bit because he left home.
They wanted him to be an art dealer or something.
Yeah, they did not want him to go down this road, and they were very disappointed in him for doing this. So, yeah. Now we have his later works, which is some of his most famous paintings are starting to come to play here, where he's starting to use a lot more colors. He's getting away from the darker palettes and the darker subject matter, and his famous sunflowers, which he used a lot in his paintings, but that was not the only flowers he used in his paintings around this time. As you can see, he used several other kinds of flowers as well. And then, as we know, right before he died, unfortunately at the age of 37 years old, he created one of the most famous pieces, Starry Night, which he used the famous technique in which I will teach you all today.
Yes.
Yes.
So each of these paintings took him out in nature,
Yes.
but expressed his feelings, didn't it?
With the colors and his palette choice, for sure.
Perfect. Has anybody seen any of these paintings before? There's the one we all not the original.
Now we have his most famous Starry Night painting, in which when he created this painting before his death, he actually kind of went out into nature, and he was in this like very dark place right now. He's very depressed. His palette changed again from very colorful stuff to very dark, dreary, more like blues and blacks with subtle hints of yellow here and there, but mostly it's more sad palette to cope with his depression. That's where Starry Night came to play. And he was in a very secluded place during this time, and he took himself out of society, out of people, to create this piece. He stayed there for like several nights to figure out what he was doing. And this is where his famous technique called impasto came into play, which is a lot of texturing and layering of the paint using a palette knife. Not a paintbrush, a palette knife. But a lot of people do use paintbrushes to get details in, not just palette knives. So this painting, there's a lot of interpretations as to what people do see in this painting, because nobody knows what actually is happening in this painting, because he died too young to figure out what happened.
So what do you see?
I see hope in the resurrection.
Yes. You do?
To me, it looks very peaceful.
I see an incoming storm of wind.
Ah. He had a fascination with the sun too, didn't he?
Yeah, he did have
I mean, this isn't the sun, this is the moon. It's actually much brighter than the moon I see out.
Oh yeah.
But it was important to him that the moon be present, wasn't it?
It was, because he did have a very strong fascination with the sun and the moon. A lot of his paintings.
So many of his paintings, they were present. This church, I don't know if you noticed, this church right here is what always, of course, that's the pastor's wife and me, wonders if the parsonage is next door. The church itself has such a tall steeple. I mean, a really, really tall steeple, which to me has always expressed that the church reaching up to God, because the sky to me is his interpretation of creation and God and the Spirit moving. But there isn't a cross on the top of that steeple, which I think is interesting. When he was raised Protestant, his dad was a Protestant minister. I haven't ever seen one with an actual cross on it. Have you?
No, I don't know.
And the prints look that close, that detail isn't part of it. No. And then these particular trees have a story too, don't they? Wasn't he fond of these kind of trees?
Yeah, he was like very fascinated with those types of trees, for sure.
These cypress trees. Are they all over Europe? I haven't
Yes,
been to
yes,
Italy
they
yet.
are.
So, since you've been to visit the tree.
All over Italy, like coming in on the plane, it's just instantly, I was like, oh, yes. All the cypress trees, it was really pretty.
But it was important to include nature along with the village of the people.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about this too, when I had read up on this, that if you go to that hospital that he was in and you look out the window, he supposedly painted this stuff,
Yeah.
that doesn't exist the way we see it. So they know pretty much that a lot of that came out of his imagination.
Yep.
So that's why there's a lot of interpretation as to what was he doing? Was he thinking about death? Was he thinking about the heavens? Why was he seeing that the way it was? Why is it so dark?
What was the mission
Yeah, but
of that?
they'll never really know. But
No. No. But the whole idea of being confined to a space and not having control over what you can see, an artist like you can totally understand the need to create what's on your mind. I think weren't there like over 9,000 letters that
Yes. There was a lot of letters that were sent in between him and his brother Theo, for sure.
How many letters have you written to your brother?
I texted. If he needs me, he texts me.
Text is the way to do it now, but letters back then was the way they communicated.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Perfect. So there's a song that's connected to this painting. Have you heard Starry, Starry Night? When we actually do our technique, we're going to try to put that song up so it can be ringing in your ears. That music has a way of following you out the door. We want to make sure you get to hear that. All right, we'll go to the next slide. Yes. Now this is the guy that I've been stalking for the last 7 months. And I probably should talk to you. We don't want to forget to show your amazing book too, Billy. So back on that round table in the middle are the books that Zion has. Some of them belong to Pastor Vicki, some belong to Pastor Jim, but most of them are from the library. Some were donated by Pastor Ruckland and by other pastors from their library, and I encourage you to check them out. But the one that I just read out of the Open Hands one is the one that has the great devotion that I encourage you to try. But this particular write-up, if you were here last week, isn't anything new. Henri Nouwen is also born in the Netherlands and a priest, so he was in a family with ministers and became a minister. We watched a little bit of his video. In the middle of the table, there's a video that'll be in the library. Some small groups are going to take it and look at it. I encourage you. It's about an hour long. We watched 18 minutes of it last week. But you'll get to hear his voice, see him preach, offer communion, get an opportunity to get to know Nouwen in his own voice. He was impacted by not just Van Gogh, although he loved Van Gogh. He taught classes both in Yale and I think also at Harvard on compassion, on living a compassionate life. Rembrandt, his famous Rembrandt, Dr. Brown's been there to see the Prodigal Son is what it's called, right? And he wrote a book, which is on the table. There's a website there's flyers on the table. I didn't pass them out on the paint tables, but the flyers mention about 20 of his 40 books that he's written. And the book on the Prodigal Son is amazing, isn't it? We're hoping to do a presentation on it in the spring so we can actually visit Rembrandt. Have you studied any of Rembrandt's paintings? Just a little. What an amazing artist too, right? He impacted some of Van Gogh's art, from what I remember. Anyway, back to our wounded healer and wounded prophet that also had some dark times. He taught and he preached all over the world. We had Lauren here last week talk about how his focus has always been on being God's beloved. And you'll see that in all of the books that he writes, that he wants us all to know about being beloved by God. He died fairly young too, in his 60s, and Europe. He was headed, you know where he was headed? He had a heart attack, I think in the Netherlands, on his way to see the Van Gogh Museum. He was going to do some more work on study at the Van Gogh Museum, and so he died on his way there. And so that was kind of an interesting last step that I read. Anyway, I have found him to be very inspiring. He does come out of a Catholic background, but he has a lot of grace. He has a lot of opportunities to give us direction in our suffering, because that's where this all comes together. Back in May, this book came out, and I was all excited because I knew I had already been studying Nouwen for a few months, but I didn't know he had a connection to Van Gogh. And so this is kind of what brought this all together. I want to make sure you know that they have a lot in common. And even though they lived in different centuries at different times, they both come from a very strong Dutch background, but they both, I think Van Gogh even tried to be a clergyman. Yeah. He tried to follow in his father's footsteps. And Henri Nouwen had an uncle and I think an aunt that was a nun, and even at age 5 or 8, he had an altar in his attic that he was doing sacraments with. So there's something about being raised in the church, which you were raised in the church too. You so understand that that generation makes a difference. And their work is both of them have work all over the world. I don't think all of Van Gogh's paintings are at the museum.
No, some are in France.
You can see some in France. Can you see any in Italy?
No.
There's probably none up here except for just maybe some prints.
New York.
New York.
Yeah, in Newark, and in the Metropolitan
New York and the
Museum,
Louvre.
I bet. And the Louvre has some too. Both of them had severe depression. I would call, back then, even in the 60s and 70s and 80s, they didn't always treat mental illness. Not that we're doing a better job now. They didn't always know what to do with that, did they? And don't you find that sometimes the most creative people can go to the darkest place? I think it's because they live out their art through their heart. I could be wrong. As an artist, would you agree with that? That what's in your heart comes out in his case, in his sermons, in his writings. He wrote 40 books, and then in Van Gogh's paintings, the sufferings there. That's my most recent one. You so understand that, don't you? They both were big letter writers. They left behind a legacy of compassion in that work. You said like 9,000 letters to Theo. But Henri Nouwen, there's a book back there called Nouwen Men, had, I think, what did he say, 120 people he wrote every day. And some of the people like Mr. Rogers, I'm a huge Mr. Rogers fan, if you know who he is from children's television, has a chapter in there about how he was influenced by Henri Nouwen. And it's a really good book because it's about people who have lived or knew or studied Henri Nouwen and how he affected their lives. And so that's kind of a fun way. I'm sure that there are books on that by Van Gogh too. I just didn't do that research. Let's go on to the next slide here. This is going to be in the library. I've been sleeping with it and living in it, loving it to death. This particular book called Learning from Henri Nouwen and Vincent van Gogh, Portrait of Compassionate Life by Carol Berry is written by pastor's wife. And she wrote another book before this, and I don't think Kaylee's had a chance to see this. I tried to find this, and I didn't get it for you, but this is a Van Gogh. She specifically studied Van Gogh on his life and his ministry, what he did with his mission. And that just came out in 16. She wrote the other one in 19. She does art in, I think she lives in Vermont right now. She was in Kentucky, she's in Vermont now. They've been in ministry a long time. This is her. This is Carol Berry, and she was asked by the society. There's a whole HenriNouwen.org place you can go where the society commissions people to write books, and they commissioned her to write this book. And she went to Yale with her husband when he was in seminary, Yale Divinity, and attended classes with Henri Nouwen. So she sat in on his class on compassion. And then they gave her all the notes from that class. And so she went through all the notes and then all her notes on Van Gogh to create this book. And then as an artist, she also put a third chapter. Each of the three compartments of the books is divided into three sections. So one section is on Van Gogh and on that topic, and then another section on Nouwen, and then a section on what it was like to be in ministry. And these are a couple quotes I want to make sure you get a chance to hear. These wounded healers desire to reach suffering people with a message of reassurance and hope. And just like we heard from you, that you can see hope in the art, you can see hope in his writing. Both Nouwen and Van Gogh teach us to look more deeply into our experiences and to see there for the presence of the divine. The book is divided into three chapters, or three sections: solidarity, consoling and being consoled, and comfort. And I took a quote from each of the three people and threw it up there just because I felt like their words are better than mine. And so I just want to walk through that real quick. Nouwen, in his classes, called the Compassionate Manifest, was that document that we as Christians need to be compassionate. And he says in the fall of 76 that the compassionate manifest their human solidarity by crying out with those who suffer. And then Van Gogh said in 1884, "I believe that, after all, I've done nothing or shall never do anything that would have me lose or make me lose as a right to feel myself as a human being among human beings." And then Barry says, "The more we shared our lives generally with people, the more we gained insight into ways of caring." And so that solidarity is a big part of their ministry and a big part of what happens. Then they move into consoling and being consoled. It's one thing to be in solidarity with people. It's another thing to try to console them. And now it says the compassionate manifest their consolation in feeling deeply the wounds of life. VanGogh says, I can't draw sorrow if I don't feel it myself. We met those in need where they were, said Carol Berry. We didn't find a solution. We just gave them what they needed at that moment. So if you're consoling people, then you can move to comforting and offering hope, which is the last stage. The compassionate offer comfort by painting beyond human pains to glimpse of strength and hope. VanGogh says, in a picture, I want to say something comforting, as music is comforting. It came down today. She was playing the piano so beautifully. And music was coming out of that instrument, which needs to be played, right? And I thought, what a gift to be able to do both music and art. I think there are a lot of us that get comfort from music and from art. And from scripture and from other people's writings. Sacrifice for the ones we love is never too great. Each one of us has a special gift to love. And if we set that gift free, miracles happen. That's a summary. Read the book, though. It's so much better. This is the final quote that she gives that I want to share. And I want to make sure that, that you understand it isn't just this artist and this prophet, healer, and this pastor's wife that can be compassionate. We're all called to be compassionate. And that's what brings in your art and brings in your life as we go on. So let's take a peek at this. Can we read it together? Is it too hard to see? Let's see if we can walk through it slow. Our mission is to be more receptive to all we encounter. We are invited to see beyond the obvious and to live more contemplatively, more reverently, and with a greater awareness of the relevance everything around us has in the fabric of our lives. Think of VanGogh's paintings as windows to the sacred. Break down walls of separation and understand that our lives are interwoven. We all have the same need to be loved and loved. Rich, isn't it? All right, but fun part comes. Yeah. Okay. We're going to encourage you to grab a piece of paper. They're big pieces of paper there that are stiff. If it were me, I would fold it in half. I would fold it in half and maybe use a brush on one side with a palette knife on the other. Just experiment. Maybe do an experiment and something more serious on the other side. So grab a piece of paper, grab a palette knife, grab a cup with a little bit of water in case you want to brush off, you want to get the water off. There's also this little yellow plate where they could put chunks of paint instead. If you don't want to put a whole glob of paint on your painting, put it on here and pull it off of there, okay? Yeah. So a little water if you want to clean your brush. A little paint on either that little plate or on your canvas. Is that what this is called? Although it isn't called canvas. You have canvas. I have a living canvas. What is this? It's called paper. The big thing that she wants to show you is with the palette knife. So let's make sure everybody, I have 24 palette knives, so I should have plenty of palette knives. Has anybody worked with a palette knife before? Well, this is a first. You have some palette knives over here. You got one? Everybody at this table get a palette knife? We need one more. Go ahead. So, this is the impasto technique. It's where you use the palette knife to create textures like this on your paper or canvas. And it makes it three-dimensional. It's got textures to it. And I can also move around with this when you guys are painting to show you up close. And it just makes it overall more interesting than a flat painting, which Van Gogh has accomplished with his starry night for sure. So, you're going to be using the palette knife and you're just going to take the paint and just go for it. Throw strokes on. So it isn't like spreading peanut butter? No. It's very uneven. You can just throw a chunk on and then grab more paint, throw another chunk on. If you want one area to be flatten it with the palette knife. If you don't, leave it textured. It makes it 10 times more interesting.
can do many colors or just 2 colors, or you can even do actual paintings like the Starry Night or create a cross on one side. You can use both paintbrush and palette knives. You don't have to just use palette knives.
So remember, the word compassion means to suffer with. This is you suffering with and trying something new and different.
Oh, yes.
Why don't you walk around and let us see it
Yeah,
closer?
and this is actually oil paint. This is not acrylic. So I can show you what it looks like in oil.
Yeah. The acrylic will dry faster, but it still won't dry before you leave.
Yeah, yeah. So this is the actual oil paint. It's got like texture. Go for it.
Make sure you walk by. I'll watch. You're young.
Try one of these.
So this is go ahead and touch it. Yeah, it's still wet.
It has to be on pretty thick.
But this is just like an idea. Yeah, I did this in my studio. Yeah. So that's it.
I know you can do this. You can. How about if you make a cross? You can.
I'll get another dish.
Yellow. You have a little bias there. Little bias.
I don't have any idea
You are doing it.
what I do.
You are doing it.
Our process, I used to show you.
Yeah.
Do a sun or a circle, that's fun to do.
But I can show you the artwork. Yeah.
Remember, the oils will make it easier to layer than acrylics do, but you still can get the effect if you use tons of
There are
paint.
scientists that are working on
It's the
bringing back.
Now, I had the brown because we did St. Bain type stuff, not because it's
There's a lot of people that still okay.
Yes, you're right. I'm sure
So
that.
my friend is my view on what would happen. You just focus on science and you forget about That's why they made a picture of it's gonna cityscape and rundown stuff. And we have the zinc panel brought back. They're stuck in Brooklyn, which is cities. And we lost all the forests. All the animals we have today are humans. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Because I always watch
You kind of wonder how many of those paintings, don't you wonder how many of those paintings did before?
You know what, let's see if I can find some more. How about if you just use this?
It's gorgeous.
and that's and I shared it because we have like a little class.
I am too. We went to where he was buried. There were artists there that
So Jurassic Park will actually happen with like.
So while you're working on this, while you're working on your creation project, I want to talk a little bit about another book that you can read that's a novel that's just newly out by Sharon Gosel Brown, and she did the Sensible Shoes series. But this one talks about VanGogh and Nouwen and a woman going through some depression. And I invite you to check it out from the library. It's called Shades of Light, another resource that can help you walk through what happens when we are compassionate to someone who's suffering from mental illness, like our friend VanGogh and even Nouwen touched on. So I want to encourage you to look for those resources in the teacher's library. It's so fun. It's so good. I love the texture you're getting in there. Did you try the knife thing?
Boy, that's what I use.
Are you still around today or taking out?
I don't think you're gonna pass as an artist. You know,
being creative here. You can take this home.
He needs to stop.
Go right in there. Go right in there.
He really does need to stop.
Dad's going for it.
Did you get
Can
a
we
picture?
make sure and thank Haley for giving us so much information? Thank you so much, Haley.
I'm right the colors.
I like love. Tell me that's the ground. Or the bottom. Could be a lot of different things. Grab a bookmark. I've sent bookmarks if you want to take a bookmark to do some serious reading. I have these Bible verses that have inspired VanGogh and now you're welcome. Grab a bookmark. Keep painting.
I'm just kidding.
This is trouble, and then this
Did you have any?
trouble disappeared again.
Did we cover anything you wanted?
Looking for